In the ancient world, danger did not always roar. Sometimes, it waited. Long before monsters were dismissed as fantasy, there was one creature spoken of in lowered voices, a being so lethal that no sword could stop it, no armor could protect against it. It did not hunt. It did not chase. It simply existed, and that was enough. They called it the Basilisk, the King of Serpents. Born, it was said, from a corruption of nature itself, the basilisk was small, deceptively so. Yet its power surpassed that of giants and dragons. A single glance could end a life. Its breath poisoned the air. Stone cracked, plants withered, and water turned foul wherever it passed. This was not merely a legend whispered by peasants. Scholars wrote of it. Monks illustrated it. Travelers altered their paths to avoid the places it was believed to dwell: ruins, caves, abandoned cities, and forgotten wells. To encounter a basilisk was not to fight, but to vanish. Across centuries and cultures, the creature changed its shape: serpent, hybrid, crown beast, but never its meaning. The basilisk became the embodiment of silent death, of power without effort, of destruction that required no violence. And though no living eye has ever confirmed its presence, the fear it inspired was real. Because the basilisk was never just a monster, it was a reminder that some threats do not announce themselves, they only need to be seen. Often described as the King of Serpents, the basilisk was believed to be born from an unnatural union, an egg laid by a rooster and hatched by a toad or serpent. From this grotesque origin came a creature so toxic that its very existence seemed to violate the natural order. Small in stature, sometimes no larger than a common snake, the basilisk's power lay not in muscle, but in inevitability. According to legend, a single glance from the basilisk was enough to kill. Its gaze could stop a beating heart, wither plants, and split stone. Poison flowed not only through its fangs but through its breath, its blood, even its shadow. Wells were said to turn foul at its passing, fields died where it slithered. To encounter a basilisk was not a battle, it was a sentence. Medieval scholars treated the basilisk not as fantasy, but as fact. Natural philosophers catalogued it alongside lions and vipers. Bestiaries warned travelers, monks, and soldiers alike, avoid ruins, caves, and abandoned cellars, for these were the basilisk's preferred domains, places already touched by decay. Yet for all its terror, the basilisk was not invincible. Folklore offered two unlikely weapons. The first was the rooster's crow, the very sound that mocked its cursed birth. The second was a mirror. Unable to survive its own lethal gaze, the basilisk would perish when forced to confront itself, a rare moment where reflection became a weapon. Over time, the basilisk evolved in the human imagination. It merged with the cockatrice, sprouted wings, gained talons, and became a symbol more than a beast. Alchemists saw it as living poison. Monarchs adopted it as an emblem of absolute power, destruction without effort, authority without challenge. Today, no basilisk stalks our ruins or poisons our wells. But its legacy endures. It lives on in language, in symbols, and in the enduring idea that some dangers are not loud or obvious, that some threats need only be seen to destroy. The basilisk was never just a monster. It was a warning. Long before the basilisk became a staple of medieval bestiaries and modern fantasy, it existed at the crossroads of ancient natural history, folklore, and fear. To understand the creature fully, one must trace it not through myth alone, but through the writings of scholars who believed, quite sincerely, that the basilisk was real. The earliest surviving written account of the basilisk appears in Naturalis Historia, authored in the 1st century CE by Pliny the Elder. Pliny describes the basilisk as a small serpent native to Cyrenaica in North Africa, marked by a white crown-like spot on its head, hence its name, derived from the Greek basiliskos, meaning little king. According to Pliny, the basilisk killed not by biting, but by mere presence. Its breath scorched vegetation, cracked stones, and poisoned the ground it touched. Even a spear thrust into its body was said to transmit lethal venom back up the weapon, killing the attacker. Importantly, Pliny does not frame this as myth, he presents it as zoological fact. This early portrayal establishes the basilisk's defining traits: small size, supreme lethality, and unnatural influence over the environment. Greek writers expanded on the Roman idea, often blending observation with philosophy. The basilisk became a symbol of corrupt nature, a creature that violated balance. In Greek natural philosophy, creatures that kill without physical struggle were considered deeply unnatural, making the basilisk more horrifying than lions or wolves. Some later Greek texts suggest that the basilisk represented invisible dangers, poisons, disease, or moral corruption, things that could kill silently, without warning. By the Middle Ages, the basilisk had migrated fully into European folklore and Christian symbolism. Medieval bestiaries, illustrated encyclopedias of animals both real and imagined, described it in vivid detail. These texts were not entertainment, they were moral guides and reference works. The basilisk was often depicted as a serpent with a rooster's crest. A reptile crowned with gold. A hybrid creature combining snake, bird, and dragon. Its origin story grew darker, an egg laid by a rooster, hatched by a toad or serpent. This unnatural birth aligned perfectly with medieval Christian fears of inverted nature and sin. Church scholars interpreted the basilisk allegorically. Its gaze symbolized sinful temptation. Its breath represented spiritual corruption. Its dominion over ruins mirrored the soul abandoned by faith. Yet practical advice was also given. Travelers were warned to carry mirrors or rely on roosters, whose crowing was believed to kill the basilisk outright. In England and parts of northern Europe, the basilisk evolved into a closely related creature, the cockatrice. The cockatrice emphasized avian traits, feathered wings, a rooster's head, bird-like legs. While the basilisk was primarily serpentine, the cockatrice became more dragon-like. Over time, the two creatures merged in art and literature, their names used interchangeably. English folklore, in particular, favored the cockatrice as a symbol of sudden death and divine punishment. During the Renaissance, belief in the literal basilisk waned, but its symbolic power intensified. Alchemists reinterpreted the creature as living poison incarnate. To them, the basilisk represented substances so volatile they could destroy the unprepared seeker of knowledge. Some alchemical texts claimed the basilisk could be created through secret processes, a warning against reckless experimentation. In this era, the monster shifted from external threat to internal danger, the consequences of forbidden knowledge. Regional variations beyond Europe. North Africa retained Pliny's original serpent-like basilisk, tied to deserts and scorched earth. France emphasized royal symbolism, the basilisk as absolute authority and divine wrath. Italy linked the creature to plague and poisoned wells, especially during outbreaks. Eastern Europe blended basilisk traits with local dragon myths, increasing its size and wingspan. Despite differences, one idea remained constant: the basilisk killed without effort. By the 17th century, scientific inquiry pushed the basilisk firmly into the realm of legend. Yet it never disappeared. It survived as metaphor, symbol, and cautionary tale, proof that humanity has always feared threats that cannot be fought, only avoided. The basilisk endures because it represents something timeless, the danger that does not chase you, the enemy that needs only to be seen. As centuries passed and science replaced superstition, the basilisk slowly retreated, from the deserts of North Africa, from the margins of maps, and from the pages of natural history. Its lair collapsed into dust. Its poisoned wells were forgotten. And its gaze, once feared above all else, was finally denied belief. Yet the basilisk did not truly disappear. It survived where facts cannot reach, in symbols, in language, in the human instinct to fear what kills silently. It became a metaphor for unseen danger, poison without taste, power without force, destruction without warning. Kings adopted its image. Alchemists feared its essence. Storytellers preserved its shadow, because the basilisk was never defined by its body, but by its idea. It reminded us that not all threats announce themselves, that not every enemy can be fought head-on. Some dangers do not roar, or charge, or strike. They simply wait, and endure. Even now, the legend asks the same quiet question it always has: what do we overlook, simply because it is small? What do we dismiss, until it is too late? The basilisk may no longer dwell in ruins or caves, but it still lives in the human imagination, where fear, power, and mystery meet. And perhaps that is where it was always meant to be. Because some monsters were never meant to be found, only remembered. Tales of the World is your gateway to the most fascinating stories ever told. From ancient myths and forgotten legends to eerie folklore and unexplained mysteries, we travel across cultures and centuries to uncover the tales that shaped humanity. Mythology from every corner of the world. Chilling folklore and ghost stories. Legends, curses, and lost civilizations. Unexplained phenomena and dark history. New stories every week. Subscribe and journey beyond the known world.